What's good, everyone? BBK Dragoon here with 5 tips to help you improve at any FPS game. These are geared for beginner players, so if you're a veteran, you might not get a lot out of these, but it never hurts to brush up on the fundamentals. With that said, let's get into it. Number 1, don't panic and play at your own pace. How many times have you had a friend come over, pick up the controller for the first time, they get into an engagement, and their accuracy goes out the window? It's pretty common with new players when they get overwhelmed to completely lose track of their accuracy, whether if it's on mouse or controller. You can see them start flailing about when pressure is applied. It's okay, it's pretty common with new players. Even experienced players can have their accuracy drop if the pressure being applied to them is great enough. The important thing to remember here is not to panic and to play at your own speed. Oftentimes, new players will try and play a lot faster than what they're capable of. They want to have that perfect tracking accuracy, they want to snap to target immediately, and oftentimes they just don't have the experience to do so. The old phrase, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, is super critical here. That ultimately with practice will lead to speed. But if you're continually trying to play faster than what you're capable of, your accuracy and decision making is going to fall apart when pressured. Experience comes from practicing the right decisions even when you may not win the engagement. New players often don't have the accuracy necessary to outplay veterans. However, they shouldn't try and play so fast that they're no longer even hitting basic shots. So remember, stay calm, make a choice, even if it's not the right choice, and follow through with it. You don't want to panic, you don't want to flail, and you want to just try and stay calm while making a decision. Number 2, stop sprinting into engagements and around corners, and be very careful of sprint spamming. Pretty much all modern shooters these days have a sprint mechanic. There's a few arena shooters that don't, but you want to be very cautious. Anytime games have animations that aren't allowing you to have your gun up ready to fire, it's a disadvantage to use it at the wrong time. Sprinting around corners is something you see all the time with fresh FPS players. You feel quicker when you're sprinting and you want to get back to the other side of the map or get into an engagement as quickly as possible. But be very careful of this because a gun down is a missed opportunity. And if you rush into an engagement while sprinting, you have extra animation frames while your gun is getting out of the animation for sprinting and into the ready to fire state. Oftentimes you'll see new players doing the sprint spam where every time they move, they're making sure that they're sprinting out of it. And this can create opportunities, even if they're, 10 frame windows where you're not able to fire. That can be the difference between winning and losing engagements. For shooters that don't have sprint mechanics, just be aware of what animations and what moves lock up your ability to fire at the enemy. Again, a gun down is a missed opportunity. Utilize sprinting with a very intentional set of choices, whether that's trying to get to a specific point or objective on the map, rotating for a flank. Don't just sprint to sprint. Make sure there is a clear-cut reason to do so. Number 3, positioning is key. Oftentimes, new players in respawn-based shooters will return to the place of their last death over and over. You experienced FPS players know this all too well because it's very easy to clean up players who are continually trying to get revenge. Stop returning to the place where you last were taken down, and if you're going to engage in that spot, at least approach it from a different flank or a different angle. It can be very tempting to rush right back to that spot because you know that there's action there. However, experienced players are going to predict this, most likely going to know the direction you're coming from if they have a basic knowledge of spawns, and continue to take you out. Don't give the enemy players that free momentum. Utilize all areas of the map and be unpredictable. Smart positioning can overcome poor accuracy. So a lot of times new players will be discouraged saying, I just don't have the accuracy to take down opponents right now. If you are positioned correctly, you can overcome lackluster accuracy if you're in the right place at the right time. This means making smart flanking decisions and not always engaging an opponent in a way that they're expecting. You see really strong Battle Royale players utilizing this all the time. They will flank extremely well and engage enemies who are unaware of where they're being attacked from over and over again. Number 4, don't charge at enemies in a straight line. It can be very tempting to try and close the gap while fighting, and new players tend to do this because if you're closer to your opponent, generally it's a little bit easier to land your shots. But when you push directly at an enemy in a gunfight, the opponent doesn't even have to move their crosshair. This is why strafing is so key. Making sure that you're moving left and right in an unpredictable pattern causes the opponent to have to move their crosshairs and guess where you're going to go. It also forces them to have strong tracking and snap-to accuracy. If you just push at opponents in a straight line, and this happens a lot in shooters with a melee mechanic like in Halo, Again, the opponent has the easiest set of shots on you possible because they don't even have to move their crosshair. Remember to strafe and practice your strafing intentionally in your gunfights. Number 5, and probably the most important one, keep your crosshairs at head and chest height. Do not aim at the ground. This is a habit that I see so often with new players where their crosshairs are aimed at the floor. I believe this happens because maybe they think they get a better line of sight and can see easier if the gun model is out of the way. However, this creates more time for you to have to snap to the target. You want to keep your crosshairs aimed where you think the opponent will be. Any time spent moving the crosshairs from the floor to the target is going to be a disadvantage for you.